All right, you guys. So yeah, this is O'Day. She also works in the tech industry. We met last year because we both went through course careers, which y'all have already been hearing me talk about, and then we both landed positions in the tech industry, two completely different tech companies. So we have a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences when it comes to our journey and our stories. So let's start off with like, how did you first hear about the tech industry, and then what made you actually want to move forward with that?
Yeah, so gosh, last year was just I was in one of those spaces, right, where I always say I had enough money to cover my bills. I didn't have enough money to cover my bills and my dreams. And so that put me in this place of like, okay, like what am I supposed to do? And I always thought that in order to come into a place like the tech industry, like you had to be real tech savvy. You had to,
Right.
when I thought of that, I thought of like a software developer or some kind of, computer analyst or something like that, to where like my brain doesn't work that way. So how I ended up coming into finding course careers is, I believe it was from watching Tech is the New Black,
Mm,
Cyrus Harbin's platform.
right.
So, I watched his stuff on YouTube, and he was talking a lot about course careers, and I was like, okay, this is fascinating. And then I heard about tech sales, and I was like, you know, I didn't really have much sales background, but I had customer service background. And so I was like, this kind of seems like I could, of course, learn a new skill,
Mm-hmm.
with sales, and just already utilize, my customer service background. So, and it allows me to break into the tech industry, and it allows me to make way more money than I had ever made, in any other previous job. So I was like, yeah, this is a green light for me. So
Right.
so that's kind of how that started. That was last October 2022, for me, when I got introduced to course careers.
Okay. Okay. So that's how you heard about it. So, and then from there, you started the course. Like, did you like hop right in? Did you do like research first? Like, did you have any?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will mention how, they're asking me a million and one questions. Like, either they have certain doubts or fears, or they're kind of skeptical. Like, what was that like for you when you were hearing about it?
Yeah, so if my memory serves me correctly. So I'm not sure if they still do or not, but Course Careers had like a kind of like a free trial kind of a thing, where you were
Mm,
able to give the course a test run for a few days or something. So I did that. And full transparency, guys, like I did not have the $500 at that time to pay for the
payment
course. Like,
plan. Look.
yeah, exactly, right? Payment plan. So that is what it is there for. So yeah, I ended up doing that, and then I ended up just going through the course. I started the course on like, I don't even know, it's probably like a Tuesday or Wednesday, something like that. And I finished the course literally 2 weeks later. I mean, I was so dedicated to getting in this, because I was like, okay, if I can get in this, and if I'm able to make the kind of money that they say I can make as a
Mm-hmm.
base salary, like we're talking about a base salary. We're not talking about commissions and all of that. If I'm able to make the kind of money that they say I can make as a base salary, like, okay, it's a go. So what I was doing, me personally, um I have ADHD, so I can be all over the place. And it is best for me to not be in my atmosphere in order to get things done. So every single morning, I was going to the gym like I do, and I was going to Starbucks every single day for that 2 weeks. Without fail, so I worked as a dog walker then. So I would be at Starbucks from maybe like 7, maybe like 7 a.m. To 10, just studying, go walk dogs, do what I needed to do, finish up by like 2, 3, come back. to Starbucks, sit there for another 2 or 3 hours, study, and then I would go home, eat dinner, go to sleep, do it all again the next day. So I literally did that for 2 weeks, and I just locked in. Like, if you want it, like, I promise you, it is not difficult. It
Right.
really is not difficult. And I think, had um, I didn't have a lot of stories to go to like now, like your platform and what you're doing amazing work. I didn't have anybody to go to be like, hey, what's up? Like, it was literally just, this is what Course Careers is saying, and I'm gonna just go
Right.
for it. And you know what I mean? And the
Hmm.
entire course was very easy to understand. Like I said, I finished it in 2 weeks. However, please be advised, people have families and children and, work. It just so happened that my life was a lot more flexible at that time for me to finish it, fairly quickly. So even if it takes you 2 months or 3 months, whatever, do it at your own pace, but get it done, because I promise it's worth it.
Yeah, that's something to mention as well for those of you guys who might be interested in the course. Like, just as we're going through this interview, just to keep in mind that the course is self-paced. So whether you're working two jobs or if you're in school already or if you whatever your schedule is looking like you can do it at your own pace. You can do it from your phone, you can do it from your laptop. Like the course is I feel like they made it like that on purpose so that people can actually like it could be doable. You don't have to wait for a set time, a set day where they're doing certain classes on these days and yeah, so but because of that and everybody's different journeys, like people do finish at different times.
Yeah.
She finished in 2 weeks. It took me like four, I think 4 weeks, basically like a month. And some people I know it took them like over a month. So someone said, "What's the course? What's the courses for?" So we're talking about tech sales, like in the tech industry. That's one of the jobs. There's a variety of jobs that you can choose from, but we are specifically focused on tech sales because that's what both of us did. So okay, so you did the course, you
Mhm.
finished the course in 2 weeks,
Mhm.
and then what were the next steps? Like, did you go straight into interviewing or job searching? Like, what was the job searching like? Like, what was that like after?
So about a week and a half before I got to the near the end of the course, I say that because that's a whole nother thing.
Right.
Um, but I started applying. Like, so I'm gonna just keep it 1,000 with you guys. And Juuna'e is an amazing source. She's like, you can ask her a million and one questions, but you got to start. Like, you just got to start. And so, I know that a lot of people that I went through the course with were wanting to finish the course before they started looking for jobs. And I was like, this is really simple. This is not rocket
Right.
science. So about a week and a half, yeah, through the course, I started applying for jobs. I got my resume together. I ended up meeting a guy, shout out to Gregorio. Gregorio I met him at Starbucks actually by chance. And he used to work for Facebook, and now he works for Google. So I was telling him that I was breaking into the tech space, and he was like, "Oh, I work in the tech space. I work for Google." And same age as me, we were both 34 at the time. And so he was like, well, what do you need help with? And I was like, well, honestly, like, I could really use help with my resume, with just,
Hmm.
figuring out how to structure that for breaking into this space. And so he ended up helping me get my resume together. And once he did that, that's when I started just
Hmm.
applying. Because I think, even me, just being in this space and being here to be of service and to help other people. One thing that I find is people want to ask a million questions before they say, okay, I'm ready to start. I'm ready to start
Right.
applying. Only you're going to know when you're ready to start applying. Only you're going to know when you're ready. And for me, I felt like, you know what? I'm ready. Like, I can do this. I'm the type of person that I feel like I know how to speak. I know how to sell myself. I know how to, do that whole thing. So for me, it was just like, I'm just going to go. For someone else who might feel, maybe a little more shy or a little more apprehensive to this process, it might take them a little while longer. And that's perfectly
Right.
fine. You just have to find a time that works for you. Neither I nor Juuna'e nor anybody can really answer that for you. Only you will know. And I just knew about a week and a half in, it was time to apply. So I started applying. It was maybe like I'm trying to think what day that was. I'm not sure what day. It was like a Thursday or a Friday. So it was definitely like later in the week. Um, and then by that next Monday, I was receiving callbacks and emails, to come in and interview for the tech sales role.
If anybody's in a place where they are trying to job search and they want some kind of tips on how to actually get interviews, um, she is on LinkedIn. Uh,
I'm your girl. I am your girl. Hit me up on LinkedIn. You will honestly have a much better success messaging me on LinkedIn instead of TikTok.
mm-hmm.
And my name on LinkedIn, I don't know if you put it up here anywhere, but my name on LinkedIn is Ren. That's Ren. Last name is Hawthorne, Hawthorne. So yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn if you have any questions. Like, I'd be more than glad to assist in any way that I can. Yeah.
Okay, so you went through the course and then you started applying to jobs. So, and then you said you started getting responses. So, what was the interviews? What were the interviews like? And how many
Uh,
interviews did you do? And what was just that process like?
so at that time, I was maybe going through like two, maybe three tops interviews. And that's actually that was the case with the first company that I ended up getting hired with. I went through three rounds of interviews, which I mean technically it was two. So the first round I went through was, just over the phone with the recruiter. And then the second and third round were actually with hiring managers, or like a panel style interview. And then the other interviews that I had of the jobs that I didn't accept, it was like two, maybe three as well. So, and within that, because I was a newbie, and they had I had no idea, what being in a tech sales role was. Of course, I
Mm-hmm.
went through course careers, but I never had experience with it. So the questions that they were asking me were just, why you? Why do you think you would be great in tech sales? Um, or they would have me do some kind of a mock call or mock, reading off a script or writing my own script, something like that. And so, yeah, that was what it was pretty much for the first couple rounds of interviews. It was really showcasing why I felt like I would be the best fit for this position. And I think that just, yeah, because they knew that I was coming in it with not a lot of experience, they just really wanted to know more about me.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, um, because I've been just going through different roles, interviewing for different roles because I'm looking for a new company. And so the interviews, because I have the experience, are a little bit more intense. But yeah, I think the first few rounds, especially not being in this space, are relatively simple.
How did all that end? Like what happened once you actually got hired onto the company? Like what was that process like as far as them reaching out to you? Like how did that conversation go to let you know that you got the job? And then what was it like actually starting at that company?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll never forget. Like, ended up getting an offer letter in my email. Just well, the recruiter had called me first, and she was just like, I've got some incredible news, and they're going to offer you the job. For me, though, it was getting the offer letter. The offer
Right.
letter was like, "Oh, y'all really gonna pay me this?" And I ain't never done this before. That was the coolest part for me. I still have that like to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so yeah, so then I started maybe a week or two later, and the training for the company that I first got hired with was a very big company. It still is. And
Yeah.
it was like to get hired at that company was like getting hired at like Google for like what
Yeah.
we do in tech sales. It was like that monumental. And because of that, they had a very rigorous and intense training process. So I went through the first 2 weeks of training. Juuna'e knows. Juuna'e was there. Juuna'e was there. She saw me through that training. I went through the first two
Oh
weeks of
man.
training, and yeah, it was rigorous, but they really did want to give you everything so that
Mm.
when you got out there, um, they're being like on the phones. And I was remote, by the way. Well, I did work in the office 1 day a week, but that didn't take place until about 2 months later. Um, but yeah, they wanted you to be prepared, rightfully so, right? So I appreciated that. So the training was a mixture of being online on Zoom calls with my team, doing homework assignments on my own, lots of homework assignments for this specific company that they gave us. And it was really just to make sure that I knew the product well,
Mm-hmm.
so that once I got on the phones, I knew what to say. I knew how to, navigate rejection and all of those things that comes along with being in tech sales.
Okay. So that was what the training was like.
Yeah.
And so once you, what was it for you? Was it 3 months training? Like as far as being in like that ramp up
Oh,
period
that
or
ramp up period? Yes, that ramp up period was 90 days. Yep.
90 days? Okay.
Mhm.
And so once you got on your own, how would you say your experience was like, like coming off the training and then actually doing the job? Like what was your experience like actually working as a BDR, SDR?
It was great. Like it was great because
Let's do pros and cons. Let's
yeah.
not like
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
answer it in like a pros and cons kind of way.
So I'll go with the cons. Cons. So specifically the company that I was working for, very, very high volume of outreach,
Mm,
very high volume of emails, LinkedIn messages, cold calls, just out of this world. So that was the downside for me. And then also my quota, honestly,
mm,
was just a little, I felt like it was a little too much for me to just kind of be out there on my own initially. So yeah, those are some of the cons that I definitely experienced. Some of the pros that I experienced, I was never micromanaged. Like you're working literally from your laptop. So I'm taking my laptop to North Carolina to visit my family, to New York, wherever
right.
I was able to work. And that was my first real experience as a remote worker. Like I said, up until a couple months later when we did have to go in the office 1 day a week. And let me mention too, I knew that when I signed the offer. Like that wasn't something they just
Like
sprung
out of
on
the
me
blue.
out of the blue. Like
Right.
no, they let me know, hey, for the first 2 months you'll just be fully remote. And then after that, you will be required to come into the office 1 day a week. So yeah, it was those are definitely some of the pros. And then also, um, the company I worked for gave me a mentor. And shout out to my mentor to this day. I still keep in touch with him, and I no longer work at that company. But Danimal, like Dan was my freaking mentor at my first company. And I'm telling you, whether the company provides you with a mentor or not, I highly encourage and suggest that when you first come into your role, what you want to do is seek after some of the top performing SDRs, BDRs at your company. Ask them to get on Slack, to get on a Zoom, whatever, and just absorb as much information as you can. And so
Yeah.
Dan was my personal mentor, but of course I was able to, speak to other people on my team and ask them questions whenever I needed that. So that was also a pro as well because I had that support, especially coming
Yeah,
in.
support.
Yeah, as a first time SDR, it was like, imperative for me to have that support, and they definitely went out of their way with that. Um, and then I'm trying to think like another pro was just like some of the perks, some of the perks that came along with it, like the stipend. They gave me like a monthly stipend, just to be able to buy, whatever I needed for my office space to make it better.
Mm,
Um, there were certain days where if your work was done, you got whatever you needed to get done, like, yeah, okay, you can log off. It's like I
right.
wasn't able to do that in um, any other avenue that I've worked in before.
Yeah, yeah, definitely the perks, like the office reimbursement, the
Yeah.
just working from home period, the unlimited PTO, which I think that is kind of
Yeah.
like what that includes. Like,
Unlimited PTO. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm kind of thinking that kind of falls in the same umbrella of what you were just saying. Like, if you are maybe ahead on hitting your quota or you hit your quota
Mhm.
like by the 20th of the month, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, I'm gonna take the rest of the month off, or I'm gonna take off like these
Yeah.
last like three,
Yeah,
four
chill.
days, or but okay, so pros and cons. So we could kind of start wrapping up. I feel like we got through your story like pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So what's next? Like, what is your, as far as like working in the tech space, like,
Mhm.
are you looking to move up as far as trying to work towards being like an account executive or something? Or are you trying to like, I don't know, like use tech to fund some other business endeavor, some other passion you have, or like, what is, what's like the next few years looking like?
Yeah. So few things. So yeah, account executive is definitely the next move. I mean, where else can you go from being an SDR making 70, 80K to being an account executive next year and making $130,000? You can't really do that in any
Right.
other profession.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, account executive, which I was actually offered an account executive role
Mm,
last
I
week. I
remember
ended
that.
up turning it down, but yeah, like there's so many doors, that can open with this. And then, so when I came into this space, I ended up starting a YouTube channel and that ended up becoming very successful. I ended up building my LinkedIn presence and that was successful. And the whole mission was to just help people. And so I'm going to be bringing that back. I have a live panel on LinkedIn called Tech Tribe, where essentially myself and a few other people that I bring on, we just talk about basically how we can help you all, answer any questions that you may have with, regarding the tech space. And what I want to do is broaden that, no longer just talking about tech sales, but also going into, cybersecurity. I see someone here mentioning project management, sales engineering, all of these wonderful tech careers
Right.
that you can go into. And then outside of that, I am a singer songwriter, and that is my
Hey,
passion.
amazing. Amazing.
Appreciate that. So yeah, so that's my passion, and then my For the Good of Humanity platform. So those things are really why I'm in the tech industry, making this kind of money to be able to then pour back into my music career. So and For the Good of Humanity. So if you have a dream, whatever your dream is, like I said at the beginning of this, I was making enough money to fund to pay for my bills. I was not making enough money to pay for my bills and for my dreams. Nothing sucks more than that, right? To where you feel you at that moment you feel stuck. When you
Yeah.
have all of these dreams that you feel God has put in your heart and put in your head, but you don't have the money to make it happen.
Right.
And so, to be honest with you, last year I've always had a very optimistic view of life. And I've always just had like blessings on blessings on blessings. But last year, I really changed my entire perspective. Like I'm about to walk into a season where I'm making more money than I've ever made. Like I changed my entire mindset
Yeah.
um, around where I was to where I wanted to be, and that's what you have to do. So yeah, I would just highly encourage you to write down what those goals are because not everyone, even myself, not everyone is looking to stay in the tech industry for 10, 20, 30 plus years. To
Mm-hmm.
know me is to know that I'm the type of person that goes out here and I'm like, I'd rather be an independent contractor than to like work necessarily for anybody, right? But honestly, breaking into this space actually allowed me to make a lot of things happen, all because I chose to say yes to kind
Yeah.
of going back into the workforce. And yeah, like it just opened up so many opportunities that I was able to meet you. You know, I was able to meet so many of my other beautiful, amazing friends that I have in this space. So, and the connections you guys will make, crazy. I mean, I've made so many connections to this day that are still blessing me. So
Yeah.
yeah, you know, just keep in mind what it is that you want to do. Know that you don't have to do this forever, especially if you have a goal that's, you know, way more important to you than being in the tech space. But just always keep that goal at the forefront of your mind as to why you're doing this. And it'll be, you know, it'll be that much more worth it.
Man, I was gonna ask you if you had any kind of advice for the viewers, but I feel like you literally just threw it right in there. I'm like, that's the advice.
That's it.
Like,
That's the
perfect. So, okay, so let the viewers know where they can find you,
mhm.
as far as whatever platforms you want people to follow you or reach out on. Yeah, let them know where to
For
find you.
sure. Yeah. So you guys can follow me on LinkedIn. I know that everybody doesn't have one. I'll get to that. But LinkedIn, that's Ren, R-E-N, Hawthorne, Hawthorne. That's preferred. But if you don't have a LinkedIn just yet, which you should, you can find me on Instagram. Instagram at O'Day Music. That's OADE and music. So yeah, find me on there, send me a message, you know, whatever. Let's chop it up. However I can help. Um, I'm here to help because I was literally just in your shoes, literally a year ago, and
Right.
I didn't have all of this. So you know, this is a blessing. What you're doing, Juuna'e, you are helping the people, and that's dope.
Well, thank you for doing this live and helping me help the people because
That's
that's one
it.
thing that I'm trying to do more frequently is to bring people on here, on my platform, where my audience and my viewers can learn from other people as well because it's about community. I just always like to take the humble route rather than the prideful route of like, this is my platform. I'm trying to get all the glory and
Mhm.
everybody listens to me. I'm like, if we really out here trying to help people, it's like there's things that I don't know. There's people, a friend of mine that I interviewed a while back where it was like, I'm like, she's been in the tech space for like 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, why wouldn't I bring her on here to drop gems of like her experience? And I feel like even with me and your experience, I feel like there's things that you went through that, like I can't speak on. Like there's
Yeah.
people who can relate to your story more than they could relate to mine. And I feel like just exposing people to different people's stories. I think the seeds are just dropping, and wherever they land and however they grow is all I care about. So thank you again for doing
Mhm.
this. I'm probably
Yeah,
going to talk to you after this.
of course.
But thank you again, O'Day, for doing this. She'll be back. She'll be back
Oh,
on
yeah.
here.
I would definitely. I feel like we didn't even we didn't even get
Yeah,
into it
this was
fully.
just the this was
So
just the testimony. Like, so
yeah,
this is just the introduction, and I'm doing this on purpose because me and her talked prior to this like a day or two ago, and we're just talking about like doing more collaborations like together,
yep.
lives like this, touching on different topics, and so this is just going to be dedicated to her testimony, how she broke into the tech industry and what her experience was like. But there's so much more to touch on, but we ain't doing it today. So thank y'all for watching, and O'Day, thank you for hopping on this live. We'll see y'all.
Absolutely.
This video will be on YouTube though, so y'all will see it. If you missed it, you will see it on YouTube. But yeah, we'll see y'all later.